My name's Adam Maxted. I'm Business Development Director of IMI Mobile. I'll try and keep this short and sweet with so many sponsored drinks around. Basically, I'm just going to cover a few key areas, really sort of tales from the trenches, and a lot of what I've been hearing this afternoon, it really echoes some of the themes I'm going to bring out in my short presentation. I also wanted to sort of start to look at what we're doing in the area of social, particularly around Twitter payments and so on, and look at how mobile billing is working for us across a number of channels, and obviously Q&As at the end after some takeaways. With such a small audience, I guess a lot of you will know IMI. I think most of you from the UK looking at the audience, with a few exceptions. But basically, I was surprised, having been in this industry a long time, to go into IMI because there is a breadth of capability within the company. I mean, we work across a number of verticals. We're not just a payment company, which was quite surprising to me a year ago when I joined. We're first and foremost a mobile solutions provider on a global scale. Our key areas of focus are mobile operators, media groups, retailers, and also enterprises. You'll see some of our clients listed up there. And the three main strands of our business are really focusing on mobile as a revenue channel. So we have a large payment business, predominantly in the UK, which is managing something like £30 million as a pass-through revenues annually. We also use mobile as part of a multi-channel approach for some of our clients, where we're actually using mobile very much as the primary mobile-first engagement tool, particularly with the mobile operator clients we're working with. And then finally, we're using mobile as part of a multi-channel approach to strive for business efficiency for companies that we're working with. So, for example, British Gas, we provide an appointment reminder service. So if you're having your boiler service, you can basically get a text. If you don't respond to that within 5 minutes, you then get an outbound IVR call. I'm pleased to say, after something like 14, 15 years of IMI being in the business, we're still innovating, and we've been recently picking up some awards along the way. And what's particularly pleasing is it's also very much in the new era of social. So just looking at the payment side of things in more detail, I think, as James is saying, and actually I think Chris was alluding to earlier, you need to actually be in a position where you can provide alternative payment mechanisms. So obviously we've now got a firm position in mobile direct payments via PSMS, and we are now running our own brand, actually, amongst working on some client solutions like with NewsQuest, where we provide a pay-for-it solution for them around their dating product. We actually own a music store, effectively, which you can download something like around about 8 million music tracks by going to the app, going to the mobile website, going to the desktop website, and that's using Pay For It today. So that's an example of where we're using PSMS and Pay For It. We're also working with the carriers, predominantly two actually, Vodafone and O2, where we were asked to provide iPad billing when you wanted to top up your broadband connection on iPad. We are providing now credit and debit card payments for both of those organisations. And then probably the most exciting area, the one that often you will get that call back if you're talking about the ability to bill on Twitter and so on, is that we are now striving to move into social payment. Why wouldn't be? It's a logical extension, and I'll give you a bit more information as to why we're moving into that area in a moment. So, having been in this business a long time, every time we come to these sort of conferences, we say this could be the year of mobile. Well, I think we've now, after 14, 15 years, moved well beyond that. It really is now all about mobile commerce. And some of these figures that we just pulled out the other day are quite awesome. And the great thing is that a lot of the telemedia companies that have been involved over the years in this industry have capabilities either to do the billing or to actually provide support solutions around that. I actually wanted to check what the revenues were for Pay For It, actually. And according to PhonePay Plus sources via AIM, it is, as Chris said earlier, it's around about £33 million in the UK is actually done through Pay For It. And that compares with PSMS industry revenues up to March this year, the preceding 4 quarters, of around about 177 million. So Pay For It is representing something like 18% of the overall PSMS revenues. But certainly talking to some of the companies in the sectors we'll go into a bit more detail, there is clearly pent-up demand, and we really have to address the complete end-to-end delivery. So we should be in a great place after 14, 15 years. It really should be the year of mobile payments and probably the next five years or so. So what I would say is, we've now got this wake-up call. I mean, Chris very eloquently, if I may say so, talked about some of the problems around pay for it. And I've been talking to broadcasters recently in the last year, gambling companies. I mean, in the last year, I'm not a gambler, but I've been getting very immersed with companies like Betfair in the UK. Formerly, I was involved with wrapping up some solutions with my former company with Ladbrokes. Hello, Mr. Weiss. And also social media. So for broadcasters, they've got a big challenge at the moment, as we all know. They've got PSMS down, working smoothly, but it's really the additional channels around the fringes, online, mobile, social, which they now need to look at monetizing. For the gambling companies, very similar challenges to the broadcasters. They've got a myriad of payment options they're using. I have tried to take out pay for it to them, and the big issue there is obviously it's only going to work in a bingo environment for small stakes and small payments out. It's not going to work, if you're a Betfair punter and basically spending £500-600 every weekend. It's just not right. So their focus is very much about using frictionless payment solutions to actually acquire customers. I mean, Betfair had a phenomenal summer with the World Cup, as most betting companies did in the UK, and now it's all about retaining those customers. So as well as us being able to provide micro-billing payment solutions, we are now very much entrenched in multi-channel outbound marketing as well as part of our routine. And then on social media, social commerce, it really does derive and present opportunities to all of us in Telemedia to take things on to the next stage. Just for one moment, let's look at the broadcasters. I think this was a previous slide. Somebody may recognise it's got a few 5 brands on it, but basically it really does sum up, I think, where the broadcasters are at the moment. Most of the revenues derive from the biggest circle in the centre, from PSMS and voice services, but really the challenge for them now is to monetize social. We're working with the BBC, have been for 4 years. We've just won a 2-year tender to provide all of their mobile and social engagement for TV, radio and events. And what has become very clear is that basically the BBC can no longer ignore the power of Twitter. They say that Twitter, that looking at the tweets over the last year or so, a lot of the sentiment coming through from the tweets is very much a fluffy, emotive messaging coming into programming, whereas actually we're finding surprisingly SMS is far more specific, direct communication with the program itself. So SMS still very much has a part to play, but if there's a way that we can actually look to monetize Twitter, which is obviously what we're doing now, that's got to be looked at. And then on demand, I think I looked at Rob's clip before I came to this event, and Rob was saying, why, for example, doesn't ITV basically with their player actually present a easy direct-to-mobile opportunity to charge for access to their player? It's only £3.99 a month. But you'd think that would be a fairly straightforward thing to do, present a billing opportunity there. So print media, I mean, that's been a tough old nut to crack, and I was delighted to hear that obviously in August, Boku had cracked a nut I've been trying to crack around IPC media. I mean, we've all made the calls to the likes of Haymarket in the UK, Autosport, to try and persuade them to go with subscription billing. Makes absolute sense. But I remember talking to Haymarket about 3 months ago, and they were saying that they really didn't want to be at the bleeding edge of new payment solutions. So, it's always good to have a competitor break open a market. An example here you see on the right-hand side is PaperPay, which is about 2 years old actually, and was an attempt by Trinity Mirror at the time to actually launch their own payment solution direct to bill for both the national titles and the regional titles. It wasn't from IMI. And unfortunately, that was a stillborn opportunity. Basically, the tariffing across network wasn't right, but it was a well-executed attempt at doing it, and I still think there's room for manoeuvre here. And I'm sure, we're all talking to the likes of News UK about how they should be doing more on mobile and also monetizing, subscription access there for Sun Digital. It's a real challenge, and they are moving very, very slowly, these organizations. So traditional PRS and voice services and PSMS is clearly dying in paper. I was horrified recently to see the figures for one major national newspaper organisation, and it makes you think, is it really worthwhile trying to do the traditional services we've all been doing? And obviously now, a lot of these groups, bingo has become the saviour for them. I think Trinity Mirror in the summer, they teamed up with Playtech and to have a relaunch of their bingo products. News are doing incredibly well with Sun Bingo. So, unless you've got something, a payment solution around bingo, it's going to be a struggle to actually get them to consider some new opportunities. And yes, pay for it is very much an ideal solution for repeat transactions. On the gambling sector, I've talked about 3 or 4 companies in the last few weeks in quite some detail. It really does become apparent that pay for it is really only going to work in a micropayment environment for low stakes, as I said earlier. It's got to be frictionless. And I was talking to one bingo company a couple of days ago saying, look, after all these conversations, why have we not been able to advance things? What remain for you the key issues? And it's a lot of the things that Chris was saying earlier. It's not just the actual the onboarding of the customer, the going through the KYC process, which is obviously very tight and regulated, but it's right the way down to if a customer coming in via Pay for It, tries to make a deposit and it's declined from their mobile account, how is that handled if they then call their mobile operator? There was one example. This particular app you see here was actually one of the ones we tracked earlier in the year, provided by Makoda. I think it's one of the only pay-for examples I've seen around bingo. And we were looking at how the payment journey went, how it could be improved on. And one of my colleagues who was testing it on a network that shall remain nameless actually ended up calling the MNO because she couldn't actually make the deposit. And firstly, this particular mobile operator didn't know that much about Pay for It and literally wasn't aware that that particular network, as they all do now, would support gambling on mobile. So a pretty shocking, so that was obviously just one example, but I mean, Chris has clearly come up against the same situation. And in fact, this national bingo operator that I was speaking to, he was saying that basically you need to make sure that you've got this complete end-to-end process covered and you're able to cope with significant volumes. So that needs to be addressed. Obviously, there's the issue of fraud. So you can deposit with Pay for It, but how do people take their winnings? You obviously can't credit the winnings to the mobile account. So we've been looking at options there. Obviously, you can put it back to credit debit card, but we've been trying to look at also more creative options where one could go to your nearest post office to pick up cash by presenting a barcode to a pay point terminal. So it is a struggle, and I think the gentleman from Manchester United, I thought, hit it well and truly on the head. Bingo companies, and more importantly, the gambling companies internationally, I'm talking to one at the moment, is in 26 countries, and they are looking to have monetization within our app. And it's actually not the most straightforward thing to do. Different countries have different payment regulations. I mean, it is great that Boku is making such strident efforts with some massive brands. And, I have to say, hands up, IMI are not in that space. So we are in certain markets, but we're not an international player. But we're providing a wide portfolio of solutions to our customers. So there's clearly pent-up demand from the gambling sector to use simple mobile payments in a number of territories, and we're trying to sort of confine our efforts on focusing on 4 priority markets and then moving on from there. So Pay for It. I mean, I've said to a Spanish gambling company recently, what we could do is just replicate the payment process for Pay for It in the UK into the Spanish market, screen by screen. That's probably the best we could come up with, but it's not an ideal solution unless you probably go to Boku. So yeah, it is a struggle. I mean, obviously, what we're trying to do is, because we are very heavily involved in multi-channel outbound marketing, we're trying to provide other solutions around the payment side of things. We're doing a lot of bulk now in the gambling sector, and we're doing retargeting multi-channel campaigns where, if somebody doesn't respond to an SMS with an embedded link, we literally will send out an email that will then prompt them to come back to the website and bet with that £20 free bet. So that's kind of what we're at on the gambling sector. In terms of Twitter and what we've been doing there, about this time last year, we launched for O2 a innovative solution called TweetServe, which I believe, according to Twitter, was the first customer care application that they'd seen anywhere, and it was launched in the UK. And this is basically where, as somebody who's a Twitter fan, they can basically set up and connect their Twitter account, their Twitter ID, to their mobile phone. So there's a direct connection made there, and then there's a series of texts going backwards and forwards to authenticate that we know who you are. And basically, this has actually, not surprisingly, gone down very well with iOS users. And so now today, you can actually pick up your balance. You can find out when you're due a phone upgrade, and we're looking to add more solutions around that as well, and taking it into other sectors like the we're talking to banks now who are particularly interested in this, and also there is a utility company we're in discussions with. So it's back to one of our core business drivers. We're trying to help customers, like the British Gases of this world, to actually reduce their inbound call costs by providing simple customer care applications like this on Twitter, where they don't have to call a call centre. So it seems to be a pretty popular way to go. And then obviously, with our work with the BBC and what we're doing with TweetServe in the customer care environment, we've been having a number of interesting discussions around how we take it to the next stage with payments directly on Twitter. It's interesting, not surprisingly, the gambling companies are very alive to this opportunity, and it's all about trying to have that secure payment journey end to end. So we're looking at that space at the moment. We're talking to 2 gambling companies in the UK about how we can launch, firstly, a viral tweet solution for their VIP gambling customers, but then go on to actually have a very simple, direct betting scenario, very similar to the text betting services I think Ladbrokes were using, and so on. So we think this is very much a way to go. It sits very comfortably within our multi-channel engagement platform called DaVinci Social, and we hope to make some announcements in Q1 next year. So for me, I think pay for it. It's really reached the point where we need to get serious. As came out as a topic earlier that was covered, I think we need to share some of the best examples of what we're doing. We need to inspire confidence in the media groups, the gambling companies we're talking to say that pay for it really is a viable payment mechanism, and we have got all the elements covered end to end. So we also need to look at exploiting other payment mechanisms. I mean, clearly, we can't just wait and hope that pay for it is going to be a big success. We have to spread our risk as well. So that's why we are providing credit debit card solutions when required to some of our clients. And then I think the other big opportunity for us, which so we've been in the social space working on this for the last 2 years, is really to see if we can finally convince the broadcasters to, and Twitter indeed as well, to run with voting, tweet pay voting for talent shows and what have you on TV. Obviously, there's going to be other companies competing for that space, but I think it's definitely a way forward. So it's all about monetizing the multiple channels that are emerging. That's it. Thank you.